Folks, welcome to the Eliot Church. Welcome to those joining us on live stream as well. Hi. This is our in-gathering Sunday, which many of you know. I have a few announcements. First, of course, to look in your insert in your order of service. There should be announcements in there as well. Check that out. Those cards are, if you have friends, feel free to give those cards to them because they have non-church events on the back that people might want to go to, including Stephen's concert and the ever-popular jack-o'-lantern competition. So distribute them far and wide. Let me see. Just a reminder that coffee hour will be outdoors today, so we can take our masks off and see each other's faces. If I seem to be avoiding everybody, it's because I've gone to the back door and I'm outside waiting for you. Tara will do the same thing. But first, we'll do a couple other things. Oh yes, moving right along, flowers. You see the flowers and the vegetables. Those are for people to take home. However, if you're taking a flower, you put them in this cup.
They're all bundled and tied.
They're bundled and tied. Just plop it in your own personal cup. These are up here now because we're doing the water gathering, and it would just be too confusing to have more water receptacles than we have. So I'm going to try to remember to bring them down. If not, they'll be right here. Which gets us to the water gathering. So we do this every year. We've been doing it for a long time. We gather water from places where we have been over the summer, or from when we sort of wrapped up what we think of as regular services and started our summer service series to today. Many years we go up to the microphone and share. This year we're going to try something a little different. You will find an index card in your order of service and a golf pencil in the official Eliot Church golf pencil holder, which is in front of you on the back of the pew in front of you. During the service, this is your big chance to completely ignore me and check your phone, because I'll think you're just writing clever things on a piece of paper. But during the service, just write down what you would like that water to represent, if you're using water from the church, and if you brought water, where the water came from. You can put your name or not, totally up to you, and then when the service starts, you'll see that there's a pitcher of water over here. Y'all can see, right? All right. There's a pitcher of water over here. That's for people who forgot their water. That little one is Tara's. Don't use that. And then you'll see these two pitchers, two vases. Those are both vases made by Walter Donald Crane, who's on the big board, minister of the church from 1982 to 1997. So there's a connection there as well. Please put the water, whatever water, a little bit of water, into one of those. It doesn't matter which one. And then the card into this lovely basket over here. Tara will help you figure it out if you get lost. It's okay. This means, like, if you're in a group, everyone can have their own, so feel free to write as many as you want. And then after the service, while we're outside for having coffee, we'll put the cards on the table. You can take some vegetables and flowers at the same time, so you can see where people got their water from, where they've been this year. But otherwise, we're going to do it in relative silence. Stephen will play while we do it. Does that make sense? Are there any questions? Okay. Good. It should be fun, and certainly a different kind of feel. So today is In-Gathering Sunday, and as we do on every In-Gathering Sunday, we are thinking about church. We're thinking about connecting to people who worshipped here in the past, and ones who will worship here in the future when we are gone. So let us take a moment in silence to connect ourselves with the cloud of witnesses.
would you please join me in reciting together our covenant, which is printed in your order of service. In the love of truth and in the spirit of Jesus, we unite for the worship of God and the service of all. Our first reading this morning comes from Canoeing in the Mountains. We are in uncharted terrain, trying to lead dying churches into a post-Christian culture that now considers the church an optional, out of touch, and irrelevant relic of the past. What do you do? If you are like me, indeed like most people, what you do is default to what you know. You do again what you have always done before. What is needed? A spirit of adventure, where there are new unexpected discoveries and ultimately new perceptions. To be sure, this is an adapt or die moment. This is a moment where most of our backs are against the wall, and we are unsure if the church will survive to the next generation. The answer is not to try harder, but to start a new adventure. To let the assumptions of the past go. To see not the absence of a water route, but the discovery of a new, uncharted land beckoning us forward. Yes, in the face of uncertainties, fear, and potential losses. To learn and be transformed. What is needed? An adventure that requires adaptive capacity. And our second reading comes from the prophet Isaiah, a wise one for certain, chapter 43, verses 18 through 22. Isaiah says, "Forget the events of the past. Ignore the things of long ago. Look, I am doing something new. Now it springs forth. Can't you see it? I'm making a road in the desert and setting rivers to flow in the wasteland. Wild beasts will honor me, the jackals and the ostriches, for I will put water in the desert and rivers in the wasteland, for my chosen people to drink. These people whom I formed for myself so that they might declare my praise." And now, if you would please turn in your gray hymnal to responsive reading number 466. I will read the regular text. Please respond with the text in italics. Let religion be to us life and joy.
Let it be a voice of renewing challenge to the best we have and may be. Let it be a call to generous action.
Let religion be to us a dissatisfaction with things that are, which bids us serve more eagerly the true and right.
Let it be the sorrow that opens for us the way of sympathy, understanding, and service to suffering humanity.
Let religion be to us the wonder and lure of that which is only partly known and understood.
An eye that glories in nature's majesty and beauty, and a heart that rejoices in deeds of kindness and courage.
Let religion be to us security and serenity because of its truth and beauty, and because of the enduring worth and power of the loyalties which it engenders.
Let it lead to us hope and purpose, and the discovering of opportunities to express our best daily tasks.
Religion uniting us with all that is admirable and human beings everywhere.
Holding before our eyes a prospect of a better life for mankind, which each may help make natural.
Amen. Would you please join me in the spirit of prayer? We'll begin with a time of silence to pray for those in need and to settle into the presence of that mystery which is both within and beyond each of us. You who we call by so many names, though we know you are beyond all naming. God of imperfect but beloved community, we give you thanks. We give you thanks for the places from which we have come. We give you thanks for our ancestors, the spirits on whom we lean and who ground us and whose we are. We give you thanks for opportunities to bring all of who we are to this place and to build something holy together. For we know that when love is present, you are president. We pray for this church, this community, Natick, Wellesley, Sherborne, Framingham, and beyond. This nation and this world, O God, knowing that it is broken in so many ways and screams for your love, which is, of course, made manifest through the works of our hearts, our hands, our minds, our words, and our willingness to listen. And we pray knowing that prayer alone will never be enough. We come together in this sacred moment, remembering to pause, remembering to thank and to praise and to take nourishment for the work to come. We come together knowing that none of this is possible without your grace and without the grace that we extend to one another. We come together remembering that we are not alone. One of the things that can help us to remember that we are not alone, but part of a larger family of faith, is the ritual of praying the Lord's Prayer, which Jesus taught to his disciples, and which has been prayed across distance, language, and time ever since. I invite you now to join me in prayer. The words are printed in your order of service. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And at this time, I invite you into the spirit of generosity. Our morning's offering will now be collected, and we invite you to give as you are willing and able.
How's the index card thing going? All good? Cool. So you got a little time. Just as a primer, this is not a mistake, leaving my water bottle up here. My water's in here. And so, for example, it doesn't have to be like a truly huge life-changing event that you record in. It can be. But, my water's come in this water bottle because I've been doing a lot of hiking. So it's more the bottle than the water. Our next reading is from Jim Morley, and those of you who were here last week know that I ended my sermon with this same reading. For those of you who don't know who Jim was, he was the historian of the church for many years, a leader here. He died last year. He used to be really annoyed by the fact that we have all this history about our ministers and less about our lay people. So I thought I'd just tell you who Jim was, because he'd appreciate that, I think. So again, this is from last week, but it is topical for this week as well. It's a bit of a series. Okay, just briefly, in case you don't know the history of the church as well as I do. There were numerous congregations that were on this spot, and he's going to refer to some ministers from sort of the first set of churches, which were Puritan churches, and then he's going to refer to some ministers from the second set of churches, which were Unitarian and Congregationalist churches, Transcendentalist churches, mostly. A united church has now taken its place on this ancient site, a liberal community church in the Christian tradition. Its message and its membership are unlike any that have gone before. No, our great forebears, John Eliot and Thomas Wabbin, would not be comfortable in the services today, nor, one would imagine, would Stephen Badger or Horatio Alger of a later time. Our community is too diverse, our lives too secular, our ministers too individualistic, and our sermons too short. But if they were alive today and heard the church bell ring on a Sunday morning, I think they would come to meeting. They would, in the ancient phrase, extend the right hand of fellowship, pleased to find another generation as devoted as they had been to building a center of inspiration and friendship here on this storied knoll by the Charles. So, one of the great questions in the history of liberal religion has to do with how we started back with those Calvinists of Boston and Plymouth and numerous other places, people who had no interest in widening the circle, how we started with them, the Plymouth colony and the Mass Bay colony, and ended up where we are now. Non-creedal, open and affirming, building bridges, having deep conversations, both with many different faith traditions and with people of no particular faith at all. I'm currently engaged in an online conversation, in fact, with colleagues about just this question, because something happened to this movement, and it's a bit of a mystery. Something happened that changed us, made the disparate groups of separatists turn their eyes outward through succeeding generations to see ultimately the holiness in others, to accept the concept of a still speaking God. Now, whenever it happened before our time, so we think of it as a long time ago, but not that long ago. Because I think my friend Jim was only partly right about those Calvinists who first worshipped here. People like John Eliot and his colleagues. If they were here with us today, they would not come to meeting with us or extend the right hand of fellowship, which is a formal act of clerical welcome and recognition up to this day. But instead, they would damn us to the fiery pits of hell. The first people to worship on this site in 1651 believed in the doctrine of the elect, that only certain people were predestined to go to heaven, specifically them. And they were only truly concerned with discovering who among them really was elect in that enclosed community of believers. But maybe those later figures in the church, those later figures in the church that returned to this place to found this congregation, people like Stephen Badger and Horatio Alger and Thomas Brattle Gannett and Walter Donald Crane, who made the vases that we use today, maybe they would see a continuation of their work and get along just fine after we explained a few things to them. Because that is when the modern world awakened. By the time this church was founded in 1828, there were powerful forces that had changed our perspective. Changed the perspective both here in the new, more liberal church and in the church we left. What happened is that the world had begun to shrink. Here in New England, we began to encounter new people from outside our own little tribes. We were changed by them, and presumably they were changed by us. In the course of a great conversation in a new and developing world. People came from all over the globe to this place, and others, as we know, were already here. Now, as dissenters from the established order, there was already a sense among our forebears, even in the midst of their judgmentalism, of being able to see things differently. Something in our institutional DNA that was open to change, that welcomed the succeeding revelations brought to us from the rest of the world. For example, in 1820, a group simply calling themselves the Christians that co-founded Meadville Seminary, my seminary, with the Unitarians, and later merged with the Congregationalists, declared that character, not belief, should be the only measurement of membership. Character, not belief, this is 1820, should be the only measurement for membership in their congregations. That is, how we act toward each other and toward the world is more important than what we think inside our heads. And today, in a pluralistic 21st century setting, we show by our actions that we too agree. You see, the modern era had begun to impact even the ancient institutions of the church in the 19th century. And for some, at least, there was no going back. So these inward-looking Calvinists changed, or their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren changed. And then we found ourselves at the forefront of advocacy and reform in the areas of civil rights for African Americans, women, immigrants, and the LGBTQIA+ community, among others. Now, I bring this up for a reason. And perhaps if you were here last week, you're aware of what it is. You see, the world keeps on changing, doesn't it? It keeps on changing. And religious communities need to keep responding to those changes. As Todd Bolsinger rather bluntly put it in our reading today, we are moving into a culture that now considers the church an optional, out of touch, and irrelevant relic of the past. It's pretty stressful right now to be part of a house of worship. It's nice to see you all. And not every congregation has responded in the same way to this truth, this fact of life. Now, we can see plenty of religious institutions that have decided to double down on the past. Again, to quote Bolsinger, to do again what they have always done before, by looking inward and reinforcing their own uniqueness, fighting the battle of Sunday morning sports, or protecting ancient doctrine in the face of discoveries and developments in the realms of science and history and literary criticism. We have seen some of them ally themselves with conservative political movements in the vain hope of turning back the clock on society. But we are fortunate, because for whatever reason, that is not a part of our tradition. We have chosen for centuries now to continue our journey into whatever is next, to honor the work of those who came before, but not to be bound by it. Not to be bound by it. So we must adapt again on this great journey, as we have always done, understanding that there are opportunities waiting for us in the new frontier. There are opportunities waiting for us in the new frontier. Now, I may have been a bit hard on that first generation. They did give us something that, even in the face of the rationalism of our own time, equips us for the journey to come. They were religious people, after all. Deeply religious people, willing to make tremendous sacrifices to travel into the unknown. And while our beliefs have changed, we still carry their sense of wonder with us and their sense of humility. We do not know where we will end up, but we know that getting there will inspire as much as it frustrates. And it will be, has been, frustrating at times. When we take a trip for vacation or business, perhaps, we often find ourselves yearning for the destination. There's luggage to track. There are tickets and maps and tolls to distract us until we get there. But we're on an adventure. And on an adventure, the journey is the most important part. And we, like those who went before us, are on that great adventure of our one life. Understanding that as human beings, we still reel from the times that we went through. But we can also glory in the beauty we find on our way. We understand, as our predecessors in this spot understood, that today, as with every day, we walk out of the past and into that new thing. In our reading from Isaiah today, we hear these words: "Forget the events of the past, ignore the things of long ago. Look, I am doing something new. I am doing something new. Now it springs forth. Can't you see it? I am making a road in the desert and setting rivers to flow in the wastelands." A road in the desert, rivers to flow in the wasteland. So soon we will share our water, small tributaries of those rivers. And we will share in silence for the first time, knowing that we go on, that we persevere in a long line of adventurers, holding together in the hard times and celebrating the good times. So let's take a moment in silence to consider the wonder of life, the joy of being together, the gifts of those who went before, and the adventure that we share with them, with each other, and with those who come in.
This morning, we celebrate the gathered community with the ingathering water ritual. We lift up our journeys, our adventures here from many places and sources, and we celebrate our covenant of belonging to each other, to this community, and to God. The waters we pour out here this morning symbolize our journeys and adventures to this place, in spirit and in body. As you pour out your water in a moment, may you hold in your heart the place or places from which you have come, and contemplate the gifts that you have brought to share here. These two vases below, with water, a little bit of water from years past already in them, are here to receive your gifts.
So I now invite you to come forward along our traditional left-hand wall and add your waters to our common dish. Metaphorically, we have two. As you come up to the front of the sanctuary along the ramp aisle, please be mindful of social distancing between family units. And in one of the basins, you can pour just a little bit of the water you brought with you. If you didn't bring water, that's what the pitcher is for. And then place the note card in the basket saying the source of your water, literal or metaphorical, which will be displayed on the table after the service.
would you please join me in reading the responsive words found in your gray hymnal, number 729. Again, I will read the regular text. Please respond with the text in italics. You and I, and all of us, flew about with the winds of summer,
following the sun in different ways of freedom and play,
finding rest in the cool stillness of shadows, and moving to the slow, heat-struck rhythms which turn the long hours of summer light.
Now it is time for gathering in. We've come together at this time, in this place, on the bridge of Bach.
Summer is fading backward into memory, and winter waits in snowy brilliance.
We meet with eagerness and delight, needing one another for sharing.
We have joys and sorrows and hopes to share. Questions, things we care about and want to help make better.
Things that we would like to understand, ideas waiting to be heard.
Today we are together in gladness. Once more, the special community that we call our church.
A community of all ages that sings its songs, tells its thoughts, asks its questions, and searches together with courage and with love.
Gracious and loving God, we give you thanks for the places from which we have come. And we give you thanks for the opportunity to bring all of who we are to this place and to build something holy together. Friends, go in peace and in joy and with courage, with an abiding commitment to love. Adam and I look forward to seeing you outside.